Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another edition of WOWSA Live with our host, Ned Denison. Ned?
Hello, everyone. I'm an epic marathon swimmer. I'm an ice miler, and I'm also the chairperson of the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame. We have one of our honorees with us today, Colin Hill. Colin, I'm going to start out by asking you to tell us about the Great North Swim, how it turned into a series, how you helped start it, and why it was significant in Britain.
Okay, thanks, Ned, and thanks for having me on this show. I'm really excited to be here. First of all, I think it's worth just sort of putting into context what open water swimming looked like back in the early 2000s in the UK. So, you know, back then I was swimming a lot. I was doing a lot of British Long Distance Swim Association races, which were great fun. But there wasn't that much activity going on in open water swimming generally throughout the country. You had the channel swimming, the old swimming Lido clubs, and that was about it. So at the time I was a very keen swimmer, but I was working for a company called Great Run, and they organized the country's biggest half marathon run. And so my role there was to organize these big televised running events. You know, we'd have 50,000 people doing a half marathon run. It was all live TV, lots of, you know, razzmatazz, really exciting events. And back in 2007, I pitched this idea to the chairman of Great Run. I said, look, could we organize an open water swim like this? Because one of my recent experiences was I tried to enter a British Long Distance Swim Association race. I was too late in sending my check off, which I normally was. So my check arrived late. I didn't have the name of my support people for the boats. And so I think it just got returned to me because, you know, I didn't know what I was doing properly. But I remember thinking to myself, look, if we could just have an event that people could enter easily, you know, there's no hassles, enter online, you turned up an event, everything was sorted for you. There was big screens, there was lots of people there. It was a really fun atmosphere. I mean, now it seems like, you know, it just that there always existed in the UK. But back then, they just weren't around in the UK at all. So when I pitched the idea, Brendan Foster, who's my boss, he sort of said to me, well, you know, you find the location and find a bit of location sponsorship and you can give it a go. So I managed to find Windermere. I love Windermere. I love the Lake Districts. This is where I live now. And I managed to find a great location in Windermere. And so I went back and I did this presentation in front of all the directors and the board of Great Run. And I said, look, this is my vision. This is what I want to do. And basically I got heckled in the meeting by a few people who just said, it's not going to work. You won't get 50 people. And year one, we got 2,400 people. And that was probably the first proper mass swim in the UK, which was really exciting. So 2,400. And then I was looking at doing some more swims, and I was contacting friends of mine who organized triathlons. And I was saying, look, I want to do a swim in London. Could you help out with the logistics with me? And they were saying, no, people just don't want to do open water swims. That's what the attitude was like back then in the UK, is that people just didn't think there was a need for these sort of mass events. And but the next year we doubled the numbers, 4,000, and then we went up to 10,000 swimmers. But I think what the Great North Swim did was just give people confidence. So people who swam in the pool, and that was my main thing. So to go on this, my main thing with the marketing team was I said, right, we ignore master swimmers, we ignore triathletes. We're going to go for the people who plod up and down the swimming pool who don't know they want to be open water swimmers. And that's where we put all our effort in, was posters into swimming pools, trying to attract the general public to come and have a go in something new. And there's so many people now who started off with a great swim, who now own coaching companies, they own outdoor swim shops, they've started their own swimming events. So I think that was a catalyst of a few other things going on around the same time, like the Beijing Olympics, Cateroo Wild Swim Book, you know, Swim Trek were going on. There's a few things in the UK that all came together in this sort of perfect storm, which created this boom in open water swimming, which still goes on to this day.
Thank you. And around the same time, you had a little bit of swimming in your own self there. A couple of trips down to Dover, maybe?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I was in 2000, 1999, 2000. I was swimming the length of Windermere, and I've got to say back then, I never saw another person swimming in the Lake Districts. I'm sure there were some. I never saw anybody else. And so it was, yeah, it was quite an experience trying to be a long distance swimmer. And as it, all we had was the British Long Distance Swim Association, which is great. That's all it was. And so, yeah, so I swam the channel like many people have who be following this. And I was kind of very much a lake swimmer. You know, I went up and down Windermere, which I know a lot of people have done. And that was kind of my home stomping ground. So to go down and do the channel was made a huge amount to me. You know, I get a lot of people now who say to me, I'm sure you do as well, Ned, like a lot of people say to me, I want to swim the channel, how do I start? Where when I was swimming, that was kind of a pinnacle of all these other swims that I'd done, and I worked up to it. I'd had failures, I'd had terrible swims, and I really cut my teeth on doing lots and lots of swims to build up to that. For me at the time, I mean, it meant so much to me emotionally to get across the channel. Yeah.
And from your success with the Great Swim Series, you got tapped for the London Olympics. Tell us about it.
Yeah, that was great. So, I mean, the Great Swim role was a very secure job, you know, it was well paid, great team behind me. And, but I got asked to work on London 2012 Olympics, partly because my own experience in knowing what open water swimming was about. And also I was used to working with live television. And I used to come at events, not just from an organizer's point of view, which can be a trap. If you just organize events, but you're not used to the television aspect, when the TV guys come and say, we want a camera here, a lot of people's response is, well, you can't. Whereas if you work with TV, you understand that these events are shows. You know, you're putting on a show. And the show includes the logistics, but it also includes the TV and the media side. And to showcase an event, especially like the Olympics, there's no other like us, you have to understand all the different elements that go into organizing a swim event, which isn't just putting on a safe swim, it's also putting on this show, you know, the razzmatazz, showcasing the sports to the highest level. So I think that's one of the reasons why I got asked. And at the time when I got asked, it was late 2010 and early 2011. And a lot of people in the UK weren't too keen on the Olympics before. When they first won the Olympics, everyone was like, it's going to be a disaster. We're not going to do a good job of it. And so when I left Great Swim, a lot of people were saying, what are you doing? That's a crazy risk. But I knew in my heart of hearts, I had to work on the biggest open water show in the world. So I left Great Swim, moved down to London, and that's where I got embedded with the Serpentine Swimming Club down there, because that's where the event took place, right in Hyde Park. And that's where I got to meet a load of great eccentrics who make up the Serpentine Club. And that was actually my first real experience in sort of going through a full winter, swimming every day through a full winter was when I was working on the Olympics. So that kind of led me into winter swimming fully, which was good fun.
And the challenges of putting on the Olympic show.
Yeah,
it doesn't sound that difficult. You got a lake in the middle of London. You throw up some bleachers, and power cables for the television, and away you go. What could be difficult?
Well, when you say that, it does sound easy. But I think one of the hard things as well is when I organize my own events. So I've organized Lenthal Lake swims with 800 people and loads of logistics, but I'm kind of in charge of everything. Whereas something like the Olympics is so big, you're part of a team. And so you have the federation who you're talking to. You've got the people in charge of the venue. You've got people in charge of security. You've got people in charge of the media. People in charge of the packed lunches. People in charge of the volunteers. There's all these different people you've got to deal with and work with. And so you're coordinating everything. Because I'm technical operations manager, which basically means if anything goes wrong, people will look at me. You know, at the end of the day, you know, I'm the one who's on the line, who's really trying to get everything right. And I think you've only got one chance with the Olympics. There's no dress rehearsal, and it has to be perfect. You know, millions and millions of people watching. Everything has to be right. The athlete experience as well. You know, those athletes, again, it's the pinnacle of their career as well. And so everything has to be right for them, all the training facilities, access to the lake. You know, and so we had a full test event the year before where we made sure that we tried it out. We spent a lot of money on this test event, to kind of get a feel for anything that we thought wasn't just right. So it was a lot of work, but it was, you know, the goosebumps I get just from thinking about it still. You know, on the morning of the events, all the technical officials were all there and meeting all those guys. Dennis Miller was who I worked with very closely. Dennis was my liaison. He was sort of the bridge between the federation, what they required, the standard they required, and also I was going to him with my plans and how I wanted things to go on the water. So it was a, you know, it was stress. You know, you wanted everything to go right, and your job was almost to worry. You know, my job was to worry about every detail, and so it wasn't until months afterwards almost I could reflect and go, wow, that was amazing. Where at the time it was just, you know, I had the start of the race. I had one ear with the live TV guys. I was standing next to Mr. Ronnie Wong, who was with one of the starters, and so I was sort of saying to him, okay, 10 seconds, and you know, just to get the start right, because you can't just, you know, the technical officials, you know, in a race they start when they're ready, but when you've got billions of people watching, it's all coordinated. So it was just an amazing experience, the whole thing. So I was really proud, and I still am very proud to be involved with it.
So Ronnie was on with us a couple of days ago as the technical open water swim committee chairperson. And
Yeah.
I think at the time, Shelley Taylor-Smith was also on the committee. And I think she helped you open the next door, if I remember right, into
I think
FINA.
so. Yeah, Shelley was a great person to have around. You know, a lot of people know Shelley. She's, you know, very extrovert, but she understood some of the small things that I was trying to get across at that event. Simple things like when the technical officials were walking out onto the field of play, instead of just wandering out into the position, we wanted it to be similar to a swimming pool event, where, you know, you see in a swimming pool, everyone walks out in line, and they turn, they sit down, the kit carriers walk out. Where open water swimming wasn't always like that, or isn't always like that. And so we had to sort of, you know, Shelley was really behind my sort of vision of how I wanted that side of things to go. And we sat down afterwards, and she knew all about my mass events that I've been organizing. And so I believe that FINA at one point were looking at having incorporating mass events alongside the elite races. And so I think Shelley said to Mr. Marculescu, look, you know, you need to contact this guy, Colin Hill. He's been doing some good things over in the UK. And obviously, Mr. Marculescu had met me across the Olympics as well. So, yeah, Shelley was a good advocate of mine. So she really helped me sort of getting the foot in the door with FINA, which I'm grateful for, because I'm still there to this day.
You've been with FINA quite a long time. Give the listeners and viewers an idea of what a FINA schedule looks like for you. I presume you swan down to Switzerland, have a Michelin star lunch, watch a bit of video, go to sleep, get a business class flight back to the UK, and that's it for the year?
Well, I think what I found with FINA is that there's some really good staff who work there. And my role is really, it's changed and sort of developed all the time that I've been there. And I think my enthusiasm has sort of helped me get through a lot of this. And a typical year for me, well, let's just go through. I've printed something out here. So I go to all the Marathon Swim World Series events. So every year I go to all the events, plus any other World Championships if FINA want me to go to those as well. For example, I did the commentary at Hungary World Championships a few years ago. So, but last year I went to Doha, Seychelles 3 times because I helped them develop that event as well. Portugal, Hungary, Lac St. Jean, Lac Megantic, North Macedonia, Lake Ohrid, Taiwan, China. So basically I have my yearly calendar, and at the start of the year, I blot out all the FINA races, and they have to fit in everything else around those, all my own coaching, length of lake swims that I'm guiding, work I'm doing with London Marathon, Swim Center. Everything fits around this FINA schedule. And my role lately has really been about promoting and showcasing the sport. And that's something I'm always really passionate about. So years gone by, sometimes a FINA event could happen and it always gets televised, but that could almost, you know, that happens locally and now we've got FINA Live, which is a good step. So a lot of the races are on FINA Live. What I do is I do all the Facebook posts, Twitter posts. You know, I'm trying to get some excitement about what is going on with these races. So I'm interviewing the athletes. I've always got my GoPro on the finish line so I can do the recordings and show how close some of these finishes are, because they're amazing events and these athletes are incredible. And so, you know, I'm really keen to try and get that across to people.
So Ronnie Wong was saying the biggest challenge they have is getting enough sponsorship money for the events. We had Catherine Lammers on a couple of hours ago.
Yeah.
She was on the circuit professionally for 10 years as a swimmer, and then she was helping with the FINA events in the Middle East. And she said the biggest surprise was, as a swimmer, she just didn't understand how important the sponsors were. They were just the people who gave her the money after she won.
Yes.
But they had no any other effect on her business. How important are the sponsors, and how important is coverage for them?
For FINA, you're talking about here?
Yeah, for the FINA, for sponsors for these races.
Yeah, I mean, I think with first of all, with the athletes, I think it's great the athletes have got no idea, because they shouldn't. You know, the athletes are there, they've got a job to do. You know, they've got so many things that they're focusing on. And, you know, each of these races, they turn up and they want, the coaches are there, they want things to be right, the coach is there to ensure. So I think it's brilliant that the swimmers don't really know about the organization. The only time they worry so much is something isn't quite right. You know, you'll talk to the coaches about that. So I think that's great. I think it's a testament now to how the events have developed and evolved. But sponsorship is key for everything. You know, these events they cost a lot to put on. You know, all the infrastructure. You look at a simple marquee. You know, the rack of portaloos you see along the back. Everything is ink. Everything is money. Everything costs. And so when you look at these international standard events, and we've been working to try and get them all up to a certain level. And you go to Doha, and they've got the grandstands. You know, everything is, all the marquees are air conditioned. You know, there's all the water safety now, which is being developed and developed and developed. So, I mean, sponsorship just helps so much with the level of events being able to stay where they should be. And so I hope that with the personalities we have in the sport now, we've got some incredible people, you know, Gregorio Paltrini from Italy, you know, we've got Sharon van der Grovendal, you know, we've got these great personalities in the sport. And hopefully with them, that will attract more and more sponsors to come on board. That's why, you know, it's a win-win for everybody.
Tell us about your top couple of great moments in these races in the last few years, an exciting finish or a winner that just couldn't stop jumping up and down for 20 minutes. What are the moments of pure joy that stick out in your mind, or agony?
There is so, honestly, it's how every single race, I'm at the start, I go on the course, I do some videoing on the course and get the athletes. And I mean, we've got some great moments. I mean, sometimes, so like Ferry Vertman, for example, you can always tell his stroke, really long, boo, boo, as he swims. Slowest stroke rate than anybody else. Sometimes, you know, when I'm hanging over the boat trying to get a good photograph, you know, Ferry looks up and just gives me a bit of a smile and a grin as he's going along there. I think one of the funny moments for me was Ferry Vertman and Krzysztof Rosowski from Hungary. You know, two amazing swimmers. And in China, everybody dives off at the start. Ferry and Krzysztof look at each other. They both do a little run. Both do a great somersault into the water, side by side. This sort of big diving sort of somersault into the water. And again, there's nothing against the rules of that, but they went on. Ferry won, Krzysztof was second or third. Or no, Krzysztof won the overall series. You know, some of the world's best having a bit of fun. I think that's really nice. And I think it's what the sports tonight needs, is to have personalities involved in the sport. So that was great fun. I don't know, honestly, I can't, off the top of my head, I can't name one. All I can say is that each race is always so close, so exciting, that it's a privilege to be there. It really is. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the Lake District in England. Give us the dimension of these lakes in kilometers and miles, if you will. And then you've been heavily involved in the warm water and the cold water up there. Give us your organizational impact up in the lakes on your own new ventures. Okay,
so the Lake District, a lot of people, when they think of the UK, if they're from overseas, they often think of London, Scotland, and they kind of miss this beautiful Lake District. And we've got so many great lakes here. The longest lake, for a lot of countries, it's relatively small, but in England, it's 10.5 miles long. So when you swim that two-way, that's the same distance as the English Channel. So a lot of people do a Windermere two-way swim as their training, their preparation. The lake that I live on is called Ullswater. That is 7 miles long, and my house overlooks the lake. So I'm very sort of, especially in this time of lockdown, I couldn't live in a better place. I wandered down my drive and I'm in the lake. So that's great. But there's also lots of mountains here, lots of high tarns, rivers, wild swimming. So for me, it's a fantastic place to be based. Also, I'm not too far away from Manchester. That's kind of the closest big city. So that's where I can fly out from. So I've got a direct train from here to Manchester Airport. It's a great location for that side of things. But with the winter swimming side, I set up an event called the Big Chill Swim, which I know Stephen Monotones has been across to. It's a huge event. Cold water swim, 1,000 people take part in that event. And we had people from all over the world coming to do that one. And winter swimming really developed kind of over the last sort of 8 years up in the Lake District. But I've got my own company here called Ullswater Swim Place, and you can see behind me I've just set up this company. I used to have a company called Chill Swim, which had length of lake swims, but now also some places where I do coaching from. This is my endless pool behind me here, where I'm also doing some coaching. So I can do some technique work in the endless pool, and I take people out into the lake as well. Great place to live. I'm very blessed to be here.
And you do a little bit of ice swimming yourself. Tell us about some of your places you've been, records you hold.
I've been to a lot of places. So I started off, I said, 2008, I think, was the Tooting Beck Winter Swim Champs, I think, over there.
Oh, don't go there.
Was it 2010? Was that where I beat somebody called Ned Denison?
You stole my gold medal.
And Ned.
Youth and talent. You're a cheater. Youth and talent.
And after that, I went out to Latvia. And when I went to Latvia, I think that was 2011, I think. I can't get the dates quite right. But I think out there, that's where I just really got to understand the community of winter swimming. I met people like Ram Bakai and Jackie Cobell and Jack Bright. There's all these people who at the time, there wasn't many of us really traveling around to these winter swim events. And again, it's changed beyond recognition now. But back in the UK, I was the first GB male to do an ice mile officially. And Jackie was the first female. She beat me to it. I was the first male. And then I've been to so many International Winter Swimming Association events and ice swimming events. You know, I was out in Murmansk at the Ice Swimming World Championships. And the last one was in Lake Bled at the International Winter Swimming World Championships. So it's a great community. And being in the UK, if you want to keep swimming throughout the year, you're a cold water swimmer. It's simple as that. People always say to me, do you like warm water? I'm always like, yeah, I love warm water. But, when the cold water's here, I enjoy cold water. So, yeah, I just enjoy swimming. I'm not sort of pressured. I mean, I still enjoy pool swimming. I still enjoy training with a Masters Club. I still enjoy open water and I enjoy cold water. I just enjoy swimming. Always have been.
I was surprised when we met at Tooting Beck. I didn't really know what to expect there. I expected 50, 60 people or something. I don't know what I expected. This is a concrete outdoor pool in the south of London. The water temperature was 0.5 degrees Celsius. It was a bit chilly. And there must have been 600 people there.
That's
and
right.
Some people came for the 30-meter funny hat swim competition. And I just thought, and I didn't see a single unhappy person. Everybody was absolutely having the time of their lives, and it was a kind of unusual thing. And I presume you're seeing that in all of the locations you go around the world. The same kind of atmosphere.
The colder the water, the warmer the swimmer. It's like that. I mean, because everyone is. It's one of the things that diversity sort of brings people together. And you cross these places, and it's tough sometimes going into that cold water, but the camaraderie you get, and I turn up to a race somewhere and, the Russians are coming in and hugging me and, we've seen each other year upon year and it's a great community. It really is.
Okay. Well, listen, Colin, thank you very much for your time today. You've got the endless pool behind you. You've got the lake down the driveway. You've got a lot of envious people who now hate you. That's fine. We can live with that. Thanks again, mate.
No, my pleasure, and thanks for having me on here. And yeah, if anybody wants to know any more, then do have a look at my website, which is Allswater Swim Place. But no, it's always great to hear from you, and thank you very much.
Take care.